Even if your world falls down, get yourself up off the ground. And since you know the pain has its own path, just be strong because pain won't last forever.
Today, are you feeling a little alone? People's true colors are starting to show. Did you get dumped by that special someone? Or much worse off, did you lose a dear loved one? Hey, all you awesome RPers out there in RPville watching the YouTube channel, get yourself up. I am David, your host, although not with the most. And just like you, I'm battling that beautiful disease I love called Retinitis Pigmentosa. I also have a little bit of multiple sclerosis on the side, which makes things even more interesting. I am the host, although not with the most. I used to teach, then I moved to the beach. It's about a mile that way. I'm living the dream, if you know what I mean, regardless of dealing with defective genes. There have been times when sadness I've felt, but I just keep playing the hands I've been dealt. Life doesn't suck, you'll eventually see. Not with MS, not with RP. This channel, Get Yourself Up, is just about RP, but I will mention a little MS from time to time, most likely in today's episode. Don't forget my 5 domains of happiness. They might change a little bit. I might add 1 or 2 here and there. They're fluid. But as it stands now, if I can get myself up in any one of these domains on any day, or hopefully more than one, it's going to be a damn good day. They are, in no particular order, cognitive, meaning my brain. Keep your brain active, healthy, doing things, whatever that might be. Reading, thinking, planning. Second one is emotional. That's huge when it comes to RP. I'm going to have a guest in a few episodes that I will be filming next weekend, if not the one after that, most likely, where a guy I've gotten to be friends with named Rick, who is a certified counselor and has retinitis pigmentosa, although the doctors now are wondering if it's Stargardt's disease. He is almost, if not completely blind himself. So if anybody's an expert as to the emotional things that go along with RP, it's definitely Rick here at the Lighthouse of Collier. Along the same line, I'm going to interview his wife, Wendy, who is a TVI, teacher of the visually impaired, also at the Lighthouse. And she's perfectly sighted, but she can give some excellent advice, suggestions for people that have RP as well as any other visual impairments. And then another one I'm really excited about is a neighbor I just met who lives not even half a block, maybe quarter of a mile to the east of me, who has Usher syndrome, meaning he has retinitis pigmentosa and he's lost almost all of his hearing. And he's an incredible, fascinating guy. He used to be a trader on Wall Street, of all things, and lost his vision completely from retinitis pigmentosa in 1984. He is now 81 years old, and he is the coolest 81-year-old dude you will ever meet, and so I can't wait to introduce you guys to him as well. So, upcoming episodes, Rick, the counselor, Wendy, the TBI instructor, and good old Frank, the former Wall Street trader with Usher syndrome. 3 incredible people. Sometimes people tune into this channel and tell me that I'm inspirational, or they'll send me an email, for example. Remember, the email address is getyourselfup1@gmail.com. That's the number 1, getyourselfup1@gmail.com. And they'll say I'm inspirational, and I think, are you kidding me? I'm just a regular guy. I used to be a teacher. I'm on disability now, so I made things work out cognitively. and eventually just move to the beach on disability. Where else would I rather live? Here in paradise. I'm out here in my backyard. It's still under construction, so some of it won't look too beautiful. Swimming pool's finished. I've got a lot of landscaping still to be done. There's going to be a beach sand area over there complete with a hammock. My sister painted a beautiful directional arrow sign that points to fun places around the world and how many miles they are from this particular location. Very cool. So that will be the center focal piece out here. For the meantime, I just have some banners and things of my favorite sports teams. I can give you a quick tour a little bit later. And I'm going to have a paver patio put out on this side. And if you look in the distance, again, I'll show you up closer, you can see one of Rachel's tiki bars, or as we call them in season 1, episode 5, La Cantina de Raquel. Well, now there are 2 of them, because there's one inside that I'll show you in just a minute. I kind of had to film this episode out of sequence because I did this introduction and the lighting was all wrong, so now I'm redoing it outside and then I'll take you inside. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, so there are dos La Cantinas de Raquel in El Oasis de David. I'm working on my Spanish. I'm not very good at it yet, but I'm trying. Gives me something to do cognitively, using my brain a little bit. So, again, 5 domains of happiness: cognitive, emotional. Social's important for me. I love to have an active social life. I'm pretty extroverted. I can also be introverted. Other people, however, are very introverted, and they're just fine not having much of a social life. That being said, I hate it when people who love having an active social life let that all disappear because they have retinitis pigmentosa and start losing their vision. I do the exact opposite, and I have more of a social life now than I ever did before my vision deteriorated. 4th domain is physical. I have a recumbent stationary bike right there, which hopefully you'll be able to see a little bit later. So I can sit there and work out, ride the stationary bike, not have to worry about my vision, not have to worry about falling, losing my balance with my MS. And then I have beautiful scenery out here. Like I said, there will be beach sand out there, the pure crystal white beach sand that we have here on the Paradise Coast of Southwest Florida. Have a hammock there I can just relax in. So I can ride the bike, dive in the pool, cool off, ride a little bit more, get in the pool, cool off. It's awesome. So there are ways you can do physical things to keep yourself in shape. People let themselves go sometimes with RP and other reasons, of course. And that's one of those things, and you find yourself looking in the mirror going, wow, I really wish I hadn't allowed myself to get out of shape or whatever. I've done it. Everything I talk about on this channel, I've made every single one of these mistakes myself. So I'm not sitting here bragging about anything. I'm simply saying I'm just a regular guy. That if I can do it, you can do it. It's nothing special. The 5th domain is moral. Yes, it's great when other people are very moral and look out for us people with visual impairments. But I would argue just as importantly is for you to look out for other people who have things worse off than you. You can do that. It pays back tenfold in the fact that it makes you feel good helping somebody in need. And that's pretty much what this episode's talking about. It's called The Luckiest Guy in the World, which I consider to be me. I am a little pretentious, you know that, if you watch any of the other episodes. No, I've never won the lottery. I don't buy lottery tickets. If you've seen episode 5 in season 1, I talk about that. No, I don't sit there and dream about winning the lottery and waste money on lottery tickets. I just think through how I'm going to move forward with my new normal as my vision just continues to deteriorate. I'm legally blind. You can't tell it by this. Just like you guys are, or a loved one in your family is, or whatever, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, doesn't matter. Remember, I'm just a PhD. That just means I spent a lot of years in college. I'm not a medical doctor, an MD, or a DO is also a medical doctor, a doctor of osteopathy. I'm not that either. I can't give you medical advice. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give you legal advice. Nor am I a counselor, so I can't even give you counseling advice. I can simply tell you my story about how I ended up. I was born with retinitis pigmentosa, just like everybody else. I'm looking up at the clouds. Hopefully it doesn't rain right in the middle of this, because that would suck. But it's not how you fall down, or that you fall down. It's how you get yourself up. If it rains, we redo it. Anyway, yes, luckiest guy in the world. You're looking at him right here. And yes, some people have criticized me for saying that. How can you feel lucky? You've got retinitis pigmentosa and multiple sclerosis. I'm like, because my life is awesome, and partly because of both those diseases, I've just been able to come up with ways to figure out how to do things in a different way. And if I can do it, you can do it. It's as simple as that. That's why I'm anxious for you guys to meet my new buddy, 81-year-old Frank, the former trader on Wall Street. Lives by himself, just over there. He's had 2 wives die on him. One from a heart attack, one from diabetes. And he's still living the dream himself. It's just so ironic. We both ended up in the exact same neighborhood, half a block from each other. And very cool. He's got Usher syndrome, yet he is the nicest, happiest, most fun guy of an 81-year-old of any age you're probably ever going to meet. So I don't want to give you a spoiler at this point, but anyway, I'm anxious for you to meet Wendy, and then Rick, and then Frank, not necessarily in that order. Okay, I've got 4 stories to tell you, I think, about why I consider myself the luckiest guy in the world. Some things that have happened to me that I can't make up. As I say in so many episodes on this channel, I can't make this stuff up, people. It's just the way things have worked out, and it's luck, but, and this is a big but. I'm not talking about Sir Mix-a-Lot. I like big butts, and I cannot lie. That was stupid, but I couldn't help it. There's a saying in sports that the good teams, that are a team just wins because they were lucky. Oh, that was a lucky play, or that was a lucky win, or whatever. But then, upon further review of the situation, you find out that the luck tends to happen to the teams that actually are good and are prepared for when things go horribly wrong. They've already planned for that and have been proactive. And they're just better coached, better players, better teams. So yes, sometimes a lousy team will win because they got lucky. That does happen. However, more often than not, if you're lucky, it's because you planned ahead for things to possibly go wrong. And as I say regularly on these episodes, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Then you might get lucky. Okay, a bee just flew right by my head, and so that's why I'm swatting it, and I hope it doesn't sting me. Okay, story number 1. In case you want to fast forward, that's the beauty of YouTube. If I get too wordy, just fast forward some of it. I'll say story 1, then story 2, then story 3, then story 4. En español, 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. First one took place about a mile from here. I was walking home on a very hot day, probably in July, maybe August. Here in South Florida, it gets extremely hot. And since I do have multiple sclerosis, it makes it even worse. And so even though I had my cane and I was walking back home from, I don't know, I'm thinking it was Subway maybe that I was eating at. Could have even been Walmart. But anyway, I was having a very, very difficult time walking. Fortunately, I had my long white cane of awesomeness, which I don't have with me right now because I just lost it right in my house somewhere and I have to spend some time searching for it. So normally it'd be right here in my lap or behind me, but I misplaced it. I haven't stepped foot outside my house except to come here, so it's around somewhere. I will find it. But anyway, I was stumbling because the MS was wearing my right calf out, which is this one right here, so much. And since I had my white cane, this old beat up pickup truck just pulled over to the side of the road where I was. And this, when I say old and beat up, it made the Beverly Hillbillies truck look like a brand new 2018 Ford Explorer 150, whatever they are. It was a piece of junk that was all beat up. And this scraggly old guy just yelled out the window. He didn't have any air conditioning in his truck, so he had all the windows open. So he was in the driver's side and he yelled over to the passenger side. And he just said, "Hey brother, can I offer you a ride somewhere?" Now, a lot of people might look at that and see this guy in this old beat up truck. He was all worn out, long beard, scraggly looking. There was just a bunch of tools and wood and junk piled in the back of his truck, and it was a mess. And if my leg had been working properly, I probably would have said thanks, but no thanks. I've only got another half mile or so to go, 3/4 of a mile. I'm fine with my cane. But on that particular day, even though I had my cane, that sent him the message that this guy's visually impaired, and the fact that I was losing my balance and limping and having to stop after every 30 or 40 steps to try to regain my balance and recenter what I was focusing on just to walk 1 mile. He knew something was wrong with me. And so I took him up on it and I said, absolutely, I could definitely use a ride from you. Now, I know what you're thinking. Don't take rides from strangers. I get it. But in this neighborhood, there are 4-way stop signs. A lot of them. And on this particular road, it was up on 105th, 2 streets that way, which there's a 4-way stop every block. So I figured if the guy turned out to be some creepy psycho killer dude that wanted to stab me or shoot me or whatever, I could just hop out of his truck at one of the 4-way stops and then probably not run, but at least yell and get out of the way and get some help. But I took him up on his offer. Yes, it's getting windy out here. And so I hopped in the truck, and there's a big pile of tools on the floor that he had to move, so I had somewhere to put my feet. So he did that as best he could, and I did it as best I could. And I am just going to adjust this right now because it's going to keep driving me crazy as it blows, and I don't feel like reshooting this. So I'll just continue on with my story and hope my camera doesn't blow up, because I'm having to shoot this today all by myself. Everybody's at work. By the way, it's 4 de Mayo. Tomorrow is Cinco de Mayo. Today, for your Star Wars fans out there, it's May the 4th. Star Wars Day, May the 4th be with you. Anyway, so I got in the guy's truck, and I say hopped in, I really had to climb in because it's hard to do with just one leg, and make sure that I didn't cut my ankles or my feet on any of the saws that were lying on the floor. And in our short ride, he turned out to be the nicest guy you've ever met in your life. As scary looking as he was and his truck was, it was unbelievable. And so I thanked him while we were riding for picking me up, and he said, yeah, you just look like you could use a hand. And so I figured that was the least I could do for you. And I'm sorry this is a hard episode for me to do. Each of these stories For me personally, they're kind of tear jerkers, so I'm glad I'm wearing sunglasses so you don't have to see that, but you'll see once you hear some of these stories. Anyway, in our ride back to my house, he told me his story about how he was homeless and was just sitting by himself in a parking lot somewhere here in Naples, or at least Collier County. I don't know if he was right in Naples, but he was just sitting there on the ground looking down, totally depressed, feeling sorry for himself. Nobody would hire him, work was scarce, and he was just at a very low point, depressing point in his life. And then, as I say in other episodes, magically and mysteriously, complete stranger drove up next to him and asked him the same thing he asked me, and just said, "Hey man, can I help you? Is everything okay?" And this guy said, "No, everything's not okay. I don't know if you can help me or not, but I'm having a rough point in my life. I hit a rough patch and I can't find a job." And so they had a little bit more of a conversation, and the stranger who had pulled up in the nice car said to him, "I'll tell you what, based on the skills you tell me that you have working construction," or whatever it was he was doing, "I will hire you to work for me. If you show up to work at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, we'll get you started. And if things go well, you will have a job. If things don't go well, I'll have to let you go, but I am going to give you this one chance to get your life turned around." And so this man got himself cleaned up, got to work early before 8 o'clock the next morning, and showed up and did such a fantastic job that the owner of the company, that the stranger in the nice car that showed up, hired him and kept him on. And believe it or not, this guy was such a good worker that within 8 years he had saved up enough money that he bought himself a house here in Naples, Florida, aka Paradise, for cash. Now, normally that would be hard to do, but remember the housing market crashed 10 years ago or so, so that's about the time period we're talking about. And bought himself a house. A day earlier he was just sitting in a parking lot, and so he likes paying it back, paying it forward rather. He didn't have to pay back the guy who hired him. He paid it forward to me as well as other people. And so he felt good about helping me out. I eventually got home without falling down and getting hurt. And it's a story I'll never forget. And it's a story I'll just never forget. And I am so thankful for that formerly homeless guy. Just pull over to the side of the road to offer this guy a ride home, about a half a mile, like I said, who was having a really bad MS relapse at the same time as my vision was. With RP it's bad enough, with MS it's even worse. But he just thought nothing of just offering me a ride home. So that's why I say, take care of others who are worse off than you, because it pays back tenfold, if not more so. So that's story number one, the homeless guy. The humorous part of it is, I think back, and how pitiful must I have looked that a homeless guy felt the need to help me out in this totally beat up pickup truck, who obviously hadn't shaved in probably a year. And amazing story, amazing man, and I am thankful for that every day. So that's story 1 of this episode, The Luckiest Guy in the World. Story 2, Dos, goes like this. In some of the other episodes, I forget the numbers, but one of them is just called Use the Cane, Avoid the Pain. I guess episode 6 I'm thinking of in particular, season 1, where I show you a place where I fell down in a parking lot and smashed my head into the ground and smashed my shoulder into the ground, and ended up having to go to the emergency room and having the x-rays done. It was Father's Day, I remember, because my neighbor across the street, I was able to walk home that day, but I was so bloody and beat up that she happened to be up front and saw me and gave me a ride right over to the emergency room. I was smart enough, cognitive, to buy a house just 2 miles from the hospital. Plus doctors' offices are all around this area nearby too, so I put thought into that before I bought this house here. So anyway, I got all smashed up when I fell down. They concluded, the doctor did, after doing the CAT scan and all the x-rays. Fortunately I hadn't broken any bones, probably had a concussion, but wouldn't be the first time. And however, the orthopedic told me I needed to do another 12 weeks of physical therapy to get this shoulder back working again. The thing is, I had just finished 12 weeks, maybe 10 weeks on this shoulder from a different accident I had. And so I just was so bummed out and depressed that day, because I was going for my final session on my right shoulder, and I showed up there, took paratransit shuttle to the physical therapy office, and they saw how bloody my face and beat up it was from the day before, and saw that now my left shoulder was the one that was all bandaged up. And so they said, "What happened to you now? We just finished getting your right shoulder working for you, and it's good. I can do push-ups and lift certain things, although I lose my balance from the MS, but what happened to you?" And so I told them the whole story. I won't repeat it for you again, other than, yes, I took a hard fall and smashed up this shoulder as well as my head. And but I was totally bummed out because physical therapy with my health insurance at the time, it's like $50 copay I think I had. So if you're talking 12 weeks, that's $600 on this shoulder, and then I was going to have to do another 12 weeks or $600 I guess on this shoulder, something like that. And so I was explaining that to the receptionist at the physical therapy office, as well as my physical therapist at the time, what happened. And I did another session. They said, "Okay, we'll just schedule you for more sessions. Now it's just all the things we were doing on your right shoulder, we're now going to have to do on your left shoulder." And of course I was thinking, great, here comes another $600 in co-pays I'm going to have to pay, not to mention the CAT scan and the x-rays and all that stuff, the emergency room visit, blah blah blah. Medical expenses add up even when you have good health insurance. So I was just bummed out about that. But like I say, it's not that you fall down, it's how you get yourself up. And yeah, you're going to have down days, depressing days, but you got to get your ass off the floor and turn things around. You're the only one that can do it. If you sit around twiddling your thumbs, I guess that's what twiddling thumbs looks like, it's not going to happen for you. But here's what happened to me. I just told the story. I said, let's just get started. I already know how to do this stuff. I've got an hour. Let's go. And when I got finished with my hour of physical therapy, So as I finished my hour of physical therapy, I went up to pay my bill, my $50 copay, and the girl behind the desk, the receptionist, said, "You don't have to pay the $50 because it's already been paid." And of course I looked at her like, "Say what?" And she said, "That lady that was standing right behind you when you were in the gym doing your workout session, she said after hearing your story that she wanted to pay that man's medical bills." And I of course said, "Yeah, right, there wasn't anybody behind me." She said, "Yeah, she was right there in the corner, and of course I've got retinitis pigmentosa, so even if she's right here, that doesn't mean I can see her. And if she's behind me, I definitely can't see her." And she said, "No, you don't know anything." And I said, "So you're telling me there was some mysterious lady here that offered to pay my medical bills, my $50, and she said, no, she offered to pay your entire $600 of co-pays." And I said, "You gotta be kidding me." I said, I know you've got to have some slush fund of hidden money behind the desk for people in emergency situation. And she said, "No, I'm not making this up. There was a lady behind you that heard your story, and she offered to pay all of your co-pays to rehabilitate your shoulder after seeing how bad you looked." I'm like, "Well, thanks for that." But hearing the story as well. And I said, "Can I at least get the lady's name or anything? You know." She said, "No, we don't know even who she was. She paid in cash. We have no record of anything. She just handed us $600 and said, I want to pay that man's physical therapy bill." That is a true story. Honest to God. That's story number 2. Before I get to story number 3, you might notice now I actually have my cane with me. I had to do a cut because the battery died as I was telling that story, and I realized I had lost my cane. That's an RP moment for you right there. And I couldn't find it. I was looking for everywhere around the house that I had been, and couldn't find it. And it happens to all of us. And I'm the guy that always says, use the cane, avoid the pain. And sure enough, I lost my cane in my own house. And while the battery was recharging so I could continue, of all people, my pool girl, Jessica, happened to just show up. She just has permission to walk right through back here. She comes on Friday afternoons when I'm filming this 4 de Mayo. And I said, "What are you doing here?" And she said, "Well, it's Friday. I always come to your house on Fridays." I was thinking it was Thursday for some reason. I said, "Well," she knows my situation with retinitis pigmentosa and multiple sclerosis, and the reason behind why I got the swimming pool is technically for MS, water therapy rehab, and which has been wonderful. But I said, "Well, since you're here, Jessica, you don't happen to see my long white cane by any chance, do you? Because I can't find it." And she said, "Oh, that's not good for a visually impaired person to lose their cane." And I told Jessica, it happens to all of us. It's just part of it. You just have to expect it's going to happen. You're going to set it down and you're going to lose it. And I lost it in my own yard or my house or whatever. And she looked over and she said, "Well, I don't know about your long white cane, but I see your short one right over there." And I had set it down. I folded it up like this, collapsed it, and set it down in the chair over there to go recharge the battery. So she found it for me, which goes along with the theme of this whole episode in a crazy sort of way. Luckiest guy in the world. I lose my cane. I'm in a bit of panic mode. Not true panic, because I knew I would find it eventually, but within 5 minutes maybe of me looking for it, Jessica shows up, finds it, my cane is back. What a relief. Anyway, so 2 stories. The homeless guy that gave me the ride home, physical therapy, mysterious magical lady paid for my entire 12 sessions to rehabilitate my shoulder. The 3rd story is essentially how wonderful Naples is. In case you can't tell, this is paradise. Not everybody loves beaches or beach neighborhoods or whatever, but I do. And I just discovered this place in a weird sort of situation. I won't go into details, but it has to do with meeting somebody, I want to say 14 years ago or so, online because I had a dog, and there was a website for people that had pets and would post funny pictures of their pets. Anyway, I met somebody, just broken up with my then girlfriend. I won't go into details about that. And she was a lawyer and we were close, and it was a bit of a tough breakup, and I was just friends with the person down here, and we had never met in person. I had been dating different people, she had been dating people, whatever. Anyway, after that breakup, we were having a crappy winter in Atlanta, icy and clammy and whatever, and so I just got in touch with her and just asked her, how close do you live to a beach? Because when I'm feeling like this, I need to get to a beach. And she just happened to say, it's about a 10-minute bike ride. And I simply said, do you mind if I come down and crash on your couch by any chance? Because I could really use that. And she said, sure, come on down. And so anyway, that was it. So that's how I discovered it. And then, whatever, we've lost contact. Saw her for a while, a few times when I moved here, but that was it. And but finding this house even was a miracle. I was at a funeral for a good friend of mine, and sadly, just a few years older than me, suddenly died of a brain aneurysm. And I had been coming back and forth from Atlanta down to Naples looking at real estate, and I knew I wanted this neighborhood because, having discovered it, how I could walk to the beach because I had given up driving at that point. Everything is in blocks, so it's hard to get lost. It's not like winding roads all over the place. It's just, I live on 103rd. If I want to go to the bar on 101st, I know I go 2 blocks that direction and hang a left and I will get there. And the bartender will know me by name. And when I walk in, she'll say, Dirty Dave IPA, right? She knows me to that level. So I guess that's become my nickname at that particular dive bar. Dirty Dave makes sense, I guess. But anyway, I couldn't find a house here. I kept looking, and I'd get outbid, and then I happened to get an MLS listing for houses for sale in Naples in my email, and I was up in Atlanta. I sent it to my realtor, who actually is up in Fort Myers, half-hour north of here, and said, I found a house. It looks like a total dive, but I can do the cosmetic stuff. It looks like it has a new roof, and I don't care about anything else. Air conditioner is pretty new, water heater is pretty new, whatever. And my realtor emailed me right back, and she said, it just so happens that I'm going to be down in Naples this afternoon, so I'll go to the house, take pictures of it for you, and send them back to you. Wonderful. So I'm sitting at the funeral service, and I had my cell phone on vibrate, and it was vibrating in my pocket. And I was thinking as I was sitting there watching the funeral, going through the mourning, because he was a good friend that I saw every week for years. But I knew the realtor was trying to contact me to tell me she found the house. So as I was getting a ride back to the place I was staying, I called her back and she said, I think I found your house. It's the exact location you want. It's right here by the beach. Brand new roof that was just put on a month ago. And there's going to be some remodeling and some other things that need to be done and whatever stuff that is cosmetic. And we need to go for this house right now because I had been down here several times, and like I said, I kept getting outbid. And sure enough, made the offer over the phone that day and bought the house completely sight unseen. And since I had already sold my house up in Atlanta, I didn't have a place to live for 2.5 months, and I was getting frustrated. But like I always say, it's not that you fall down, it's how you get yourself up. So fortunately, stayed at my good buddy's house, Dan, and his wife Kathy, who have helped me out millions of times over the years, because their daughter was one of my 5th grade students 20 some years ago, back when I taught 5th grade. And we've just been friends ever since, and we still see each other regularly, so they let me stay at their house for free. And he was, so he was the one giving me the ride home. So called her, made the offer was accepted. Dan, everyone needs a friend like Dan. OMG, he is incredible. He is headed for sainthood on the first attempt, first try in there, if there ever was such a guy like that. But we had the U-Haul, I had all my stuff in storage, loaded up. He drove a 26-foot long U-Haul truck all the way from Atlanta over 2 days, all the way down to South Florida, Naples. Who does that for you? For a guy who's visually impaired, legally blind, lets me stay with him for free while I'm going back and forth for real estate. He works for Delta, so he could make sure that I could get on a plane whenever. And just, again, the luckiest guy in the world for that story to have met Dan. And it's great when he comes to visit and I go up there and visit them, whatever. But I remember the first time I unlocked the door to walk in here, and just like, we looked at each other and I just laughed and said, holy cow, I just spent a lot of money on a total dump. And turned out to be anything but. It's like, if you love Peanuts cartoons, Charlie Brown, like I do, the Christmas Story, he gets a crappy little Christmas tree and they just all get together and give it some love, and then it grows in, or doesn't grow in, but the whole thing, they fix it all up and they all come together and live happily ever after, of course. But that's what I refer to my house as, the Charlie Brown house. And I won't give you a full tour of it in this episode, but now it's beautiful. I've had the kitchen redone, I've had all the flooring redone, I've had the swimming pool put in, all the landscaping and all the other stuff still, of course, has to be done. But just that luck of buying a house sight unseen while at a funeral for one of your best friends, who is also a great guy. That's the crazy world in which I live. Living la vida loca, as Ricky Martin once said. And like I said, I hate that saying, karma's a bitch, because sometimes karma's pretty awesome. And if you're just doing things to be nice to people and to help people out, You will be amazed at how many wonderful things that can happen to you. Even something as simple as this. I don't get paid to do this channel, you guys know that. But I think some people can benefit from it. I lose my cane, and sure enough, within 5 minutes, Jessica, my pool girl, shows up and finds it for me. Bam. I don't know why. It's nothing special about me. It's just I'm trying to do something nice to help inspire, maybe motivate some people, whatever. And I got lucky again that she showed up exactly when she did. The fourth and final story I want to share with you, and hopefully the battery doesn't die because I'm having to do this episode all by myself today because everybody else has to work. I have a neighbor across the street. Nicest guy in the world. Severely overweight. Sits out on his front porch all the time, all day long. And but when I moved here, at first I wasn't sure what to make of him, because I'm like, there's a guy sitting across the street looking at my house all day, every day. It's kind of weird. And I eventually went over and introduced myself to him, and of course explained a little bit about my story, and then he told me his story where he went, I think I've mentioned this on Facebook if anybody reads any of my posts, to a private school up in Ohio, and had to repeat the first grade 3 times. How humiliating must that be? He had 13 kids in his family, and he got passed up in first grade by 2 of his younger sisters. How humiliating that would have to be for a 6-year-old, then a 7-year-old, then an 8-year-old to just not be able to get out of the first year of school at a private school where the nuns apparently paddled him mercilessly because understandably he was angry and depressed and frustrated like you would expect any 6-year-old to be. And so he never graduated high school. He never learned how to read. He ended up, through happenstance, moving from Ohio all the way down here to Naples, Florida, and bought a house in 1969 they had built for $16,000, which now he could sell it for $300,000. Pretty smart guy. He was a drywaller, and that was a job he could do without a high school diploma. But the point I'm trying to make is there was a time when I needed to go see a retinal specialist because the retinal specialist I was seeing had moved out of Collier County temporarily. I thought it was permanently. And if you take paratransit like I do, it only operates in your county. And the guy I had to see was in the next county up. And so my neighbor across the street offered to give me a ride. He didn't know me that well yet. To my doctor's appointment and wait for the 1.5 to 2 hours and then give me a ride back home. And of course I thought again, who does that for a complete stranger that's just moved in recently? But he does it, and I'm not going to say his name because he'll be embarrassed if I do. But anybody that's been to visit me knows exactly who I'm talking about. Here's the thing. His wife told me months after that he was so determined to take me to my doctor's appointment for my retinal specialist, but he can't read, so he couldn't read the map to figure out how to get to that particular doctor's office. And so this is where I start tearing up, so I'm glad I'm wearing sunglasses. The night before my appointment, his wife sat down with him. I won't say her name either for the same reason, but they are real people, and went over the map with him for 2 hours. So the two of them could figure out how he could get to this doctor's office, which is in an odd location as far as doctor's offices go. And sure enough, exactly at 7 o'clock in the morning on the day of my appointment, I had like an 8:30 appointment or something, maybe even 8 o'clock. Knock at my door, and it's my neighbor. Say, "Let's go!" And I thanked him again for offering to do such a generous thing. And he said, "Oh, it's nothing, don't worry about it." And that's just how he talks, so I'm doing a bad impression of him, but you get the idea. And so he took me to my appointment. He sat out in his pickup truck for the length of the entire appointment, and as you know, that you guys with RP, they can run a lot of tests. He sat out there the whole time in the parking lot. Didn't even want to come into the doctor's office. When I got out, I looked out and saw his truck out in the parking lot, and asked him why he didn't come in the office where it's air conditioned. He just said, I didn't want to go in there. That's just how he is, kind of gruff like that. And so gave me a ride home. I offered to pay him. He would not accept any money whatsoever. And it was simply that he was too proud to admit that he couldn't read at that point. That he wanted to help me out, of all people, so badly that he spent 2 hours the night before with his wife trying to figure out how to get to the doctor's office. And she's so sweet, she spent the 2 hours explaining it to him, going over all of it, because she had to work the next day. So and again, I didn't hear this story until a long time after that. Turns out he just has dyslexia, which is such a common condition that people have that have difficulty learning to read. He wasn't dumb. He was labeled as dumb at his school in those days. He's a good bit older than I am now. Wasn't dumb at all. Dumb isn't even a good word. He just was dyslexic and was never diagnosed as such, because they probably didn't even know what it was during his time period. But he had too much pride to admit that he had trouble reading, and was just determined to get me to the doctor's appointment because he knew that my vision is important. Which brings me full circle. Had I not been using this cane, he might never have known that. He might have just seen me as some drunk guy wandering around the neighborhood, falling in drainage ditches or whatever, because I didn't notice that they were there. And just the fact that I befriended him and was nice to him and didn't look down upon him like other people do, and actually took the time to get to know him as a person, to this day, he bends over backwards for anything that I need help with, which, when it comes to mechanical stuff, even if I could see, I would be horrible at. And he knows that. So he'll give me a hard time. He will do that because that's his personality, but he always comes through in the end. Whatever I need done, he just comes over and knocks it out, grumbles the whole time, and then just walks away. That's his personality, but he's a wonderful human being, just like Dan, the guy willing to drive 12 hours a 26-foot long U-Haul truck to move my stuff all the way down here to Paradise. And so, about those domains related to this story, the luckiest guy in the world, cognitive, absolutely. Spent a lot of time researching real estate here, a place that I could live without being able to drive. There are doctors' offices around here, the hospital's right here. I had to use my brain and do a lot of time researching, spend a lot of time researching the area to find just the right place. That led to the luck of finding this house, which, when it's all landscaped, will be beautiful someday. But in the meantime, the pool is to die for. I will not apologize for that. Social, yes. We had a group of people coming over tomorrow for Cinco de Mayo. Just a small group, because I'm not ready to go for a full-blown party featuring Raquel, aka Rachel, as my star bartender. But she and I are already planning a party for the 19th. I just haven't let the cat out of the bag yet, so to speak, to be the first real party. But we're doing Cinco de Mayo tomorrow, and it's also the Kentucky Derby tomorrow, so that'll be on. We'll be watching it from the pool because there's a TV right over there. And even if it rains, it's all covered, so I'm not worried about that. Emotional, in case you couldn't tell, this was a hard episode for me to do. This was very emotional. You know, thinking back to some of these thoughts I haven't had in years. In the, you know, things that happened 4 years ago. I'm not talking 30 years ago, but the generosity of people. Complete strangers. The homeless guy now bought his house for cash, giving me a ride home. Neighbor across the street, just because I was nice to him when other people looked down on him. Mysterious lady at the physical therapy session. It's just crazy to think about. And just Naples in general, I love it here so much. The Lighthouse of Collier is wonderful. They provide all kinds of services for blind and visually impaired people. And I just met the new director last week, and so it's I don't even know what I want to say at this point, other than I am the luckiest guy in the world. You also could be even luckier than me, but think of those 5 domains: cognitive, emotional, social, physical, and moral. Physical at this point, as soon as I turn that camera off, I am diving in the pool because it's calling my name. And so that's all I have to say. I'm sorry this was a long rambling on episode. Beauty of YouTube is you can just fast forward over parts that bore you, but I wouldn't waste your time telling stories if I didn't think at least some of you could benefit from them. And they're not made up stories. This is just my life as a regular guy living here in Paradise, aka Naples, Florida. So it's time for a swim. Catch you guys all next time. Take care of people who are worse off than you, and believe it, there are people much, much, much worse off than you are. You have RP, I have RP. Use the cane, avoid the pain. Suck it up, buttercup. Deal with it. It's not how that you fall down, it's how you get yourself up.
Even if your world falls down, get yourself up
Are you feeling a little alone? People's true colors are starting to show. Did you get dumped by that special someone? Or much worse off, did you lose a dear loved one? So are you feeling really down today? Cause you just learned your best friend passed away. Yet all the bullies are having a parade, and you feel like no one will ever come to your aid. Infuriated, incapacitated, so deflated, frustrated, and often just hated. Unappreciated and unmotivated, so alienated, just plain devastated. Heart's been confiscated, feel so separated. Life's too complicated, rather just get sedated. It's not that you fall down, it's how you get yourself up. Get yourself up, get yourself up. Get yourself up, get yourself up. So I don't like the way that I look today. Consider myself lucky, worse could be on the way. So I think about those who are really in need, and I try to help them out as I rethink my greed. Intrinsic motivation is all that it takes, so I don't wait for others to fix my mistakes. Don't wait for an invitation, it won't arrive. It's only up to me to make myself feel alive. Infuriated, incapacitated, so deflated, frustrated, and often just hated. Unappreciated and unmotivated, so alienated, just plain devastated. Heart's been confiscated, feel so separated. Life's too complicated, rather just get sedated. It's not that you fall down, it's how you get yourself up. Get yourself up, 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 get yourself up. You got some really sad news today, dealing with a really heavy heart. You're keeping it all inside yourself, and it's starting to tear you apart. If your friends don't help you with serious stuff, they're probably not real friends at all. Look in the mirror and then ask yourself, are you really heeding my call? So be the good friend you know you should be. There are people worse off than you'll ever be. They need your help, so lend them a hand, then someone will help you and you'll understand. So elevate, invigorate, whatever their problem, help dominate. Someday looking down from up above, it's not how they fall, it's how you help them up. Get yourself up, get yourself up. Get yourself up, get yourself up. Get yourself up, get yourself up.